Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori Brame and I talk about lupus, chronic illness, and depression on this channel. If it's your first time here, welcome. And if it is not your first time here, welcome back. I am going to be starting something pretty exciting. It is a new series, playlist, whatever you call it on YouTube, talking about symptom tracking. So this is something that I definitely attribute my success in remission to. I think it is so important to track symptoms, and I have a kind of different way of doing it, which also tracks suspected triggers as well. I will show you guys how I did mine. I will also suggest some easier ways of doing it if you want that. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it. Today's video is not really going to be the specifics of how I tracked things. I just want to talk about the importance of tracking triggers as well as symptoms. So you may or may not have heard about the 4 S's. They are common lupus triggers. They are sun, stress, sleep, and sugar. They are common causes of flares in lupus. That was where I started to see how my symptoms were going. So since we have a human body, it really is an input versus output system. So if you're only tracking symptoms, you're only getting that output. You're not tracking what you're putting in. Now, putting in could be what you were thinking about that day, how much water you drank that day, whether or not you exercised, what type of exercise, all of those things. Before you even get started, I would highly recommend kind of just paying attention. Don't track anything yet, but just pay attention how you feel and the things that make you feel a certain way. So more than likely, you will kind of catch on that, after you eat pizza, you kind of feel more lethargic the next day, or maybe your joints hurt worse or something like that. So you can put in there, you can separate it out and be like, okay, I'm going to track cheese because that's on a pizza. I'm going to track dairy. I'm going to track tomatoes. You're hitting common triggers there, which is dairy, wheat/starches, and then also nightshades is another common trigger. So when I first started, I only had about 10 common triggers that I thought might be triggers for me. Only 5 of them were ones that I suspected on my own. The other ones were just ones that were common online. So I have never had an issue with gluten. It's a very common thing that everybody, blames inflammation on and stuff like that. And I've just really never had a problem with it. And so I couldn't figure out why I couldn't eat potatoes, but I could eat bread and be totally fine. And so what I did was I cut out all starches, including bread. And that made me feel so much better. So potatoes have a lot more starch in them than bread does. But if I had only cut out gluten, I wouldn't have realized that it wasn't a gluten problem, it was a starch problem. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, where it's just paying attention to how your body feels when you do or have certain things. Another one that you could think about is what kind of energy you're around. So some people are really sensitive to chemicals, specifically cleaning chemicals, and they feel different if they walk down the cleaning aisle at a grocery store or a Walmart. So if that is you and that resonates with you, pay attention to that. These people, it's hard for them to walk through a mall because there's so many cleaning products and aerosols and stuff like that in the air, and they just really take that in and absorb it, and it makes them feel pretty bad. Other people, it is literally going outside. So it might not even be the sun, it might just be going outside, and there might be some allergy issues where they live in a place where there's a lot of humidity and they have a really high allergy to mold or something like that. So just really pay attention to a baseline of the kind of stuff that you tend to steer away from just because it makes you feel a little bit worse. In upcoming videos, I'm going to talk about how to make a little chart for yourself and how to track these things. I did it in a bullet journal format. There's other apps you can use that are easier. With me, I would remember to do the bullet journal. I would not remember the app. I don't know why. My brain is analog. It just always has been. I think the most important thing to remember with this is that your lifestyle is your choice. Also, I would not recommend cutting all of these things out of your diet at the same time or out of your life if it's like something stressful or something like that. I would highly recommend doing one at a time, because if you do multiple at the same time, you don't know which one was the culprit if you start to feel better. Another thing that is really important is time frame. In my each individual videos coming up, I'm going to talk about time frame, but in order for something to be completely out of your system, you have to stop it for at least 2 weeks, but preferably a month. This feels ridiculous. And this was one of the hardest things for me, was because I would stop eating a food that I liked and I would feel just as bad as if I was currently eating it. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I would start to feel so much better. And then I would be like, well, maybe it wasn't that. And I would eat it again and I would feel worse again. And it was awful, because it was 2 to 3 weeks later was when I would start feeling better again. Also, there was some of a lag. So if I ate a cookie on Thursday, I knew that I wouldn't start feeling the effects of it until Sunday or Monday. And so without that immediate feedback, it was really hard for me to start breaking the habit and actually pinpoint the type of things that I was having a problem with. So that's all I want to say about that today. Upcoming, I'm going to show you my old bullet journals, and I'm going to give you suggestions on how to start tracking your triggers and also your symptoms. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and thanks so much for hanging out.